God.
First time I met her, she was like an emotional high.
Catnip.
She was a happy.
Catnip. That's what they got in there is catnip. They got it rolled up in joints and baggies and scales and everything. Turkey dope. You selling catnip? You trying to pass catnip off as K2, man?
Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I'm actually at my office getting ready for a wrongful death trial that I'm starting the week after next, so I thought I would take a quick break and make a live PD react video with y'all here today. As always, the purpose of these videos is to, one, find out whether or not the suspect or suspects were lawfully arrested, and two, figure out if there's anything that the suspects could have done differently to maybe better preserve their legal rights. With that said, let's jump right into it.
Well, now they're flagging me down at this room. What's up? They're
hitting it in the house, the room and stuff, and turning it out, and
Nope.
Yes.
Okay. We'll be out on the east side of the building. Hey, Tulsa Police.
Hey,
What's going on, guys? Doing a little bit of arguing in here? Huh?
I got this.
Where are you going? Where are you going?
I am the owner of this room.
Okay.
And I'm closing
We're trying to
the
figure out
door.
what's going on, man.
Ain't nothing going
Let
on.
go of your door.
Okay.
All right? Put your hands behind your back. All right?
Okay, so right off the back, this gentleman is being temporarily detained. He's being Terry stopped. The reason why he's being Terry stopped is that there's probably reasonable suspicion that crime has been committed or a crime is in the process of being committed. We had a disinterested third party who called the police, plus the defendant, or I should say the suspect's reaction when the police opened up the door was to try and get out of there. So yeah, that probably gives the police reasonable suspicion to temporarily detain the suspect in order to figure out what is going on.
This is my room.
We're gonna get to the bottom of what's going on here, so you can cooperate with this.
Who?
There's something going on. Hey, Tulsa Police. We have a
What's
problem.
up? Yeah, I think we do.
Talk to me. I'm the
Okay.
man.
I don't know what they've been arguing.
I'm gonna have you guys step out here. I'm not gonna put you all in handcuffs, all right? But we are gonna pat everybody down, make sure nobody's got weapons, okay?
What the police are doing here is called a Terry frisk. A Terry frisk is a cursory pat down to see if the suspects have any weapons on them. This is in order to protect the officers. You're allowed to Terry frisk anyone who you stop under reasonable suspicion that there's a crime and that there might be a probability that they are armed and dangerous. Here, these individuals were stopped because of an alleged fighting, so yeah, you could make the argument that they may have weapons. If the police were to find non-weapon related paraphernalia on the suspects during a Terry frisk, that is discoverable. All right, let's keep going.
Right.
Hey, man.
This is my room.
See, that's why they been called because of that.
No, because of next door right
What's
there.
that?
They say next door call the police.
Care if I pull it out?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, notice here, the police officer patted down and saw the sack of, I don't know. So from there, the police could identify that it was not a weapon just from the pat down. So because he identified it wasn't a weapon, he did not have the authority to just go ahead and grab it. Instead, he had to ask for consent to search it. Now, the defendant gave the police officer consent so the police officer could lawfully open it up. The defendant didn't have any obligation to allow the police officer to check what was in that bag, but he did anyway, presumably because there's nothing illegal in there. But if there was, he didn't have to let him search.
Say next door.
No,
146.
I told you to be quiet, talking too loud.
Goodbye.
You won't listen. I told you get evicted from
Any
this
weapons
place.
on you?
No, sir.
Donnie,
No.
we all right. We all good, mister.
So you good?
Yeah, we good. This is the first of the month.
Hey, Shorty. Shorty.
Yes, sir.
You dealing K2, man?
No, sir.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we've got a couple people that said you might have. You sure you don't?
K2J?
Okay, just because the police officer says that the suspect is a K2 dealer doesn't give the police officer probable cause to arrest him. Probable cause is objective. Probable cause is finding the actual K2 or catching him in the act of dealing K2. But if the suspect says that he's a K2 dealer, that gives the police probable cause to arrest him. And also notice how the door to the apartment is still open and the police officer is standing in the doorway looking inside. This is perfectly legal. This is something called plain view or the plain view doctrine. While you do have a reasonable expectation of privacy in your own home, anything that can be observed through an open door or a window is subject to being found. So the defendants could have very well closed the door on their way out while they were being temporarily detained. Let's keep going.
Yeah, K2, man.
That guy gave me a bad reputation.
No. K2 the drug.
No,
You don't have any in this room right now?
No, sir.
You care if we go check?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're gonna go check.
Okay, so at this point, the police officers have consent to go search the apartment. Presumably, there's nothing in plain view of the doorway because if there was, they wouldn't have to have consent because they could just go in and get the paraphernalia at that time. But because there's nothing in plain view and they don't have probable cause, they need an exception to a search warrant. And one of the exceptions is consent. So now the police can go in there and see what the defendant has or doesn't have in his apartment.
Look, catnip.
Trying to sell it?
I don't know. I'm sure.
That's smart. That's probably what. Surely they ain't smoking.
No,
that.
that's catnip too.
Does it smell the same as that?
No, it smells different.
I respect you and love you.
When you walking by that, stuff like that, it sounds like they're arguing. Yeah, he's noisy for sure.
I
Yeah, it
know
sounds
what I'm
like
saying.
You know why I'm noisy? Because he disrespected me.
He did?
How I
Yeah.
disrespect you?
I thought that was your buddy.
That's my buddy, and he don't trust me.
Is that more catnip? It's more catnip. They're trying to pass off catnip. Oh my God.
First time I met her, she was like an emotional high.
Catnip.
She was happy. Catnip.
That's what they got in there is catnip. They got it rolled up in joints and in baggies and scales and everything. Turkey dope. You selling catnip? You trying to pass catnip off as K2, man?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah. So turkey dope is a legitimate charge in the state of Oklahoma. It's whenever you pass something off as real dope. So like rock salt as methamphetamine or sugar as cocaine, and you package it and you sell it to people for money as if it's real dope. You can actually be charged with it. I believe it's a misdemeanor, but it's turkey dope.
Catnip, get me high.
Okay, so let's stop there. Presumably this gentleman is going to be arrested for attempting to sell turkey dope. And the reason why he can't be arrested is because there's probable cause. The probable cause arises from the catnip plus the other circumstances, the scales, the wrapping. It looks like he had every intention to sell it and pass it off as dope. So let's quickly recap the criminal procedure of this whole ordeal. So the cops were called by a disinterested third party saying that there was a fight. Once they knocked on the door, the suspect tried to get out of there, giving the police reasonable suspicion to temporarily detain him. They asked the other suspects to step out, which they cooperated with, and they Terry frisked them to ensure that they didn't have any weapons on them. They didn't find any paraphernalia on the suspects. However, they left the door open, allowing the police to look inside their apartment. Presumably, the police didn't find anything in the apartment because they did not have a valid excuse to go in there without a warrant or consent. And because they didn't have an excuse to go in there, they had to get consent to go in the apartment, which the defendant granted them. Had the defendant not given them consent to go search in the apartment, the police would not have been allowed to go in there. Therefore, they would not have found the catnip that was packaged with an intent to sell turkey dope. Now, I'm not certainly advocating for the sale of catnip, but I just think it's fascinating what people can do when they know their rights. Okay, that's it for today's video. Please make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment down below if there's anything that you want me to provide a legal breakdown for. Alright, that's it, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I rest my case. Thanks.